Hey there! Welcome back to another mini rant. This time, this is a topic that's honestly been brewing in my head for a while now. I just never really thought about doing this video because this is kind of a touchy subject, kind of a bit controversial. You know, critiquing the critics, or criticizing the critics is something that I'm basically criticizing myself in some ways, but because I do consider myself a critic, but unlike some of these other critics, I don't get paid to write my opinion on a movie, and I sure as hell don't get paid to do a bunch of defensive posturing in my critique of a film. And I've just been seeing all of these reviews of this Ghostbusters reboot from the New York Times and so on, The Guardian, Collider, wherever. And it's not the problem if they're positive, that's not a problem for me. I mean, that's really not an issue. Um, some people might think it is because, I'm one of those haters. I'm one of those people that dared to hate on the film before I even saw it. I'm still going to see it, folks. I'm going to see it probably sometime tomorrow or Friday, and you'll definitely hear my honest thoughts on it. But that's the kind of thing I'm going into here. That's the kind of thing that pops in my head, so to speak. It pops in there. Some of these reviews don't look or read as honest to me. They really don't. They look like they're following some sort of template that Sony gave them to toe the line, so to speak, so they can drum up some sort of interest in the film. As there really wasn't a lot of interest in the movie from a lot of the majority of the public. It seems like, at least from what I know, what I've been experiencing with people around me and so on, it seems like this wasn't like a film that everyone was like, yes, yes, Ghostbusters reboot, hell yes, no. It seemed like there weren't a lot of people that were behind this concept to begin with from the beginning. Whether or not it had a female cast, it doesn't really matter. This could have had an all male cast and it would have had the same reaction because I do really believe that a lot of the public, a lot of the movie going public is finally starting to become a little bit wise to these reboots and remakes, and they're sick of it. And I hope that's the case, and I hope that reflects in the box office for this film this weekend. And by the way, I'm using a free movie ticket, so it's not like I'm giving any money to the theater. I mean, I'm giving money to the theater, but I'm not really giving any money to Sony. So, because it's not a free movie ticket from Sony, it's a free movie ticket from the theater. So, anyway, this is stuff that's off the top of my head, so forgive me, folks, if it's kind of scattered, because this is just stuff I'm trying to vent a little bit here. Um, but anyway, so yeah, these reviews seem they seem kind of staged to me. Maybe they aren't, but a lot of the stuff, I see a lot of conflicting stuff. I see reviews from critics like Richard Roper, who I highly respect, who tore the film apart. And a lot of the things that people in these reviews are saying is good, he's completely giving a total counterstrike against. So maybe there isn't much truth in what those people are saying, but then once again, it is their opinion. But where I draw the line, though, is when you start attacking people, when you start getting really defensive, when you start labeling people, like calling people ghost bros, calling people hater boys. I've seen this in actual reviews, and in the comment section, and that's normal. That's to be expected. But in the reviews, ghost bros, and I see a lot of this snarky defensive posturing from a lot of these positive reviews that I've read for this film so far. And I've seen this for other movies too. This isn't the first time, but this seems to be one of the first, like, really widespread examples of this, where it's less of an actual review of the movie and more of, I'm right and you're wrong. Here's why you haters are wrong. Here's why you men are wrong. Here's why you misogynist haters are wrong. And that honestly that pisses me off, because that's not criticism. And that's what I'm critiquing here. That's what I'm criticizing here. That's not criticism. That's not constructive criticism. That's just that's just that's just basically what that is your I'm trying to think of the right word. You're projecting. You're projecting your, I don't know, your hatred or your anger towards a small minority of people who are not behind this film and who have been very, a lot of people have been vocal about the trailers and what they've seen for this reboot, and they haven't been a fan of it. And it's not because it stars four women. First off, this whole idea that Sony has that this film is groundbreaking, this is a groundbreaking move for the franchise to have strong female characters in a Ghostbusters film or a Ghostbusters property, have their heads up their own fucking asses, because they really honestly seem to forget that the franchise's past. There was already strong female characters from the very beginning. Janine is a strong character, pretty strong character for back in 1984, saying lines like, "I've quit jobs better than this." I mean, that was pretty ballsy back then, even back then, and definitely does stand out now. Then you have the real Ghostbusters cartoon. In the first two seasons, Janine was a strong character. She even wore a proton pack herself and helped catch ghosts. So this idea that Sony had and Paul Feig have, that they're breaking new ground by having female Ghostbusters, is a bunch of bullshit. Because they're not breaking any new ground. Because the ground has already been paved. So you have stuff like, and then you have like the Extreme Ghostbusters with the character Kylie. So it hasn't just happened once where we've had a female Ghostbuster. It's happened twice before this movie even was generated, before it was even in the minds of anybody. So this idea that this film is super progressive and it's breaking new ground in the franchise is bullshit. It isn't. It isn't breaking new ground. No matter how much Sony and some other critics try to say that it is, that it's some great progressive moment for the franchise, are full of shit. This is the first time it's been, the whole team has been female, but how is that really progressive? Wouldn't real progressiveness, wouldn't real equality mean that you might have like two females and then two males? I think that would, or one female in the group and then three other males, or whatever you want to do. Not just all women. I'm just saying, how is that true equality? How is that being equal? Especially when and you have a male character, but he's basically playing a himbo. So how is that being, that's not being equal, that's being sexist. So all this stuff that people are saying the film is of the people who have a problem with this movie, you're sexist and so on and blah 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 blah, but at the same time the movie itself is being sexist towards males by having Chris Hemsworth play a male bimbo character and having the film literally have a scene where the Ghost logo gets shot in the balls. So I'm just saying, I don't, you can't have it both ways, Sony. You can't say, oh, if you don't like this movie, you're sexist, and then be sexist at the same time. I'm sorry. And I don't agree with the people who say there's no such thing as male sexism either. It exists. Trust me. It may not be as prevalent as it is for the opposite sex, for women, but it still exists. It's not a myth. But anyway, going back to the critiquing the critics. This kind of stuff, it's not a review. Do your job. You are paid to criticize a film. You're not paid to push your political agenda or to push some sort of personal diatribe against a small minority of people on the internet or who don't like the film and happen to be sexist. But maybe they are. And that's what really kind of that's what upsets me too. Maybe they are getting paid to push their agenda. Maybe they are getting paid to shove this shit down our throats. And if that is the case, then film criticism might as well be dead. Because the moment politics get put into it, the moment this shit gets shoved into a review, then there's no way that I can possibly take this review seriously. I can't respect the person who wrote it either, because they have their own personal agenda. You're supposed to be as unbiased as you possibly can be when you're writing a review. Sometimes you can't help it. We're all human. Sometimes it happens. But at least focus on the film that you're reviewing. Not some message you want to get across. Not some agenda you want to push. Focus on the film itself. Focus on its strengths. Focus on its flaws. That's what you should do. That's honestly what I feel a critique is. That's what a review of a film is. It's not a review of some agenda. It's not a review of some battle between the sexes. That's not what a review is. You're not reviewing the battle of the sexes that's supposedly raging on with this Ghostbusters reboot. You're reviewing the Ghostbusters reboot. And if you honestly are one of those reviewers who took it easy on the film, that's another thing I have a problem with. And this happens a lot, where there's a controversial film that comes out that has a huge vocal fan base. There's been kind of back and forth sort of stuff where, for example, The Dark Knight Rises. Before that came out, a bunch of fans basically went on the internet and said, anybody who gives the film negative reviews, we're going to give them death threats. That's what happened. They gave them death threats. They were giving people who hadn't even seen the film yet, hadn't even reviewed it yet, giving them death threats if they happened to dare to give it a negative review. What happens when that film comes out? The film has an absurd percentage on Rotten Tomatoes, which that's a whole nother rant, which I might get to soon enough too. But really, that's a whole nother percentage. A whole huge high percentage, like in the over 95% range. And I'm sorry, that film is nowhere near that good. And a conspicuous absence of reviews from anybody that happened to not like the film. Now we flash forward to now. Now we flash forward to 2016 with the Ghostbusters reboot. You see, the Rotten people are always pushing the people who are behind this film, which is fine, that's cool. But they are pushing this Rotten Tomatoes percentage as if it's proof that this film isn't as bad as the haters thought it was going to be. And once again, with the hate, really? Stop labeling people. Stop labeling people who don't like what they see as just haters. That's stupid too. I mean, come on. This is childish. And I've seen it actually from actual writers who get paid, and they throw out terms like ghost bros and shit. Anyway, so we go back to the Rotten Tomatoes percentage, 76%. All right, cool. All right, that's average, but all right. But then I read a lot of the reviews, and a good amount of them are basically just saying, well, it's not great, but it's not the worst thing ever. So how does that constitute as a fresh review? I've seen stuff where I've read some of these other reviews that seem like it wasn't really that fresh at all. They didn't really care for the film, but it's still counted as some kind of fresh review for some reason. So, and if you take out the reviews from people who aren't top critics, the percentage is like below 50%. But regardless, it shouldn't fucking matter what the percentage is, because Rotten Tomatoes is a completely overrated way to determine whether or not a film is good. I'm sick of people using that as a reason to prove why a film is good or bad. It doesn't do anything. All it is it takes a percentage of people's opinions. and their opinions are not the same as everybody else's, because everyone's going to have their own opinion, including you. So until you see the film for yourself, I don't think you can actually go around and say, oh, this proves that this film is good, or this proves that this film is bad. And, I will see it. I will see it for you guys. But, I don't have high hopes for it. But if you ask me, honestly, deep down, I want the film to be good. I don't get the idea that people say, oh, you just want to hate it from the beginning. No, I don't. I just don't like what I've seen so far. All the trailers and TV spots have been terrible, and I don't like the idea of the reboot. I don't like the idea of a Ghostbusters remake. So, but at the same time, I'm still holding a sliver, a shred of hope that it doesn't suck. Because the last thing I want is to go and see a shitty movie. Who wants to see a shitty movie? No, I want to see a good movie. And I hope Ghostbusters 2016 is a good movie. But I have a lot of doubts that that will be the case. And these positive reviews aren't going to change my outlook on the film either. And neither are the negative reviews if I do happen to possibly maybe think it's okay. And you know me, I'll be honest about it. And that's where I get to the last point I want to make. Honesty. That's where we come into the Dark Knight Rises thing. That's where we come into some of the reviews for Ghostbusters 2016. It seems like some people are afraid to be honest. It shows up in their reviews. They're being politically correct. They're not really, they don't want to piss off they don't want to piss off the social justice warriors. Because they're so powerful, by the way. They could really kick your ass. And they don't want to piss them off, so they just take the middle ground. And they basically bitch out. And as a critic, and especially as a professional critic, why? Why would you do that? People value you and your opinion on your honesty. And if you are not being honest, and if you are just taking the middle ground just to avoid any controversy, or if you're giving a film a good review, like The Dark Knight Rises, because you don't want any controversy, then you're not doing your fans or your readers a service. You're disservicing them. You're disservicing them by basically lying about how you truly feel about a movie. And the thing is, there's no way for me or you or anybody to personally know for sure whether or not these people's opinion on this film or any of these other movies that have got these kind of just middling reviews for pretty controversial films, pretty popular movies. There's no way for us to know. But you can kind of tell in some of these reviews for this new Ghostbusters, it just seems like it reads like they had their hands tied behind their back. It reads like they had a gun to their head that said, you better not say anything offensive about this movie. You better not offend anybody. And that's why you just get this, it was okay. But are you really being honest? That's the thing. And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know for sure. But I personally feel some people aren't being honest. I really do. Because when you see a political agenda being shoved into your face, being shoved into a review of a movie, like stuff with the New York Times, where the girl literally says a quote like this, "Girls rule, women are funny, deal with it." That's no longer a completely unbiased review. That's no longer a review that honestly anyone should look at and be like, yeah, I'm going to trust that person's opinion on the film, because they can't seem to judge it on its own. I mean, really, they look at it and they're like, look at some kind of feminism puff piece or something. So then they write a feminist puff piece to compliment the film that they thought was a feminist puff piece. And maybe it is. But regardless, that's not a fucking review. So, review the movie, do your damn job, and then I won't be making videos like this critiquing the critics. I would have no reason to do that. But when you start doing that kind of shit, when you start trying to throw in some personal agenda and politics, that's not actually reviewing the film. So if you want to talk about personal agendas, you want to bring in feminist ideology into the Ghostbusters reboot, you want to talk about the politics in regards to it, you can do that, fine. But do that in a separate article and keep that shit out of a movie review. Because it honestly does not fit. It's like you're trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. And you're just trying to force it to us. And I'm sorry. I don't appreciate that. I come to a review for an opinion on the film, not an opinion on how you feel a certain amount of people are slighted, or how you feel the film is slighted, or how you feel that the producers and the filmmakers have been given a raw deal by a bunch of misogynist men. I don't want to read that. I don't know anybody who would want to read that in a review. But anyway, I don't really know what to say about this, except it really does it does upset me. How do you feel? Do you feel that criticism and just journalism in general is it starting to become more of just a bunch of clickbaity sort of stuff? We're doing clickbait titles. We're trying to go for controversy more than actual, I don't, genuine thoughts or feelings or opinions. We're going more for controversy than and trying to ape the tabloids of all things to get readers, rather than just being honest and just going out there and saying, this is my opinion on the movie. I like this, I like that, or I didn't like that, and I didn't like that, and that's it. But no, it seems like they can't seem to just do that. They have to throw out this kind of, they have to be defensive. They have to, the whole review is barely even a review, and it's mostly just a bunch of yelling and screaming about how misogynistic people are, and how the people who don't like this movie are a bunch of misogynist man bros, or who live in their basements. It's childish and petty. This is high school level type journalism, and this is coming from professionals who have worked, who write for really big, long running newspapers that have a really good reputation, like the New York Times. So yeah, maybe Venkman was right. That maybe, mass hysteria is definitely happening right now when it comes to this movie, and I will see for myself whether or not it's as bad as I fear it will be. But until then, I definitely can't say for sure the movie is bad, but I can say for sure that everything that I've seen so far from the movie is bad, because that's my honest opinion. And I would never give you guys anything else other than that. So stay tuned. Got more Ghostbusters stuff coming up soon for the Ghostbusters week. Got a I Love Ghostbusters video going to come soon. Maybe I'm going to record that later. Hopefully get that up later today. Do a little gameplay, some more gameplay stuff on the Ghostbusters 2 game on the NES, the US and the UK versions. Do a little gameplay of the Ghostbusters game on the Sega Genesis. I believe it's the Sega Genesis. Could be wrong. Could be the Sega Master System. It's the one where it's kind of, I think it was made by a Japanese developer. And, just a bunch of other stuff. A video on why it doesn't suck on Ghostbusters 2, because that film is going to be getting a lot of shit lately, especially this week, from an honest trailer by Screen Junkies. And there's another article, I think it was by Collider or somebody, that was just, it really was just a shitty article, which I might do a video on that. Yeah, just a lot of stuff to come. Even reviews of Real Ghostbusters, Seasons 1 and 2, and Extreme Ghostbusters, and review of the fan film of Ghostbusters, the video game. So stay tuned. A lot of Ghostbusters stuff leading up to the Ghostbusters reboots, which I will see either Thursday night or sometime on Friday. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.